So this is going to be my honest review of Hogwarts Legacy after completing the entire main story, the majority of all side quests in the game, and having around 90 to 95% of my field guide fully completed. I've 100%ed most zones in the game, and I've put around 45 to 50 hours in of pure gameplay, so at this point it's fairly sufficient to say that I have played the game almost in its entirety, and I have a lot of good time in the game to be able to explain what I enjoyed about it, what I liked about it, and what could be improved. Now, of course, this is going to be an honest review, but it is going to be my personal thoughts and feelings on the game and how I have enjoyed it or haven't enjoyed it. So, of course, feel free to disagree or have a slightly different opinion on certain things, and I would love to know those opinions down below in the comments, so make sure you're sharing your thoughts down there. Now, obviously, throughout, I am going to cover themes from the game, so there may be some small spoilers. I will try and keep them as limited as possible, but if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, I would recommend saving this video for a later date. So starting off with the game as a whole, this has probably got to be one of the best games I have ever played. Certainly Game of the Year in my opinion, but one of my top 5 of all time. The combat system which the game has is fantastic. It feels fluid and it feels impactful throughout, which is a really, really good sign in an RPG game. There is some fantastic storytelling elements which of course lead back to the Harry Potter universe and the kind of Hogwarts castle as we know it, but also expanding upon that into Hogsmeade and even beyond into a world created through Hogwarts Legacy, which you're able to explore, you're able to find secrets in, and it all ties together with both the main story or side quests, which kind of take you on a miniature story away from the main missions, which are also excellently well done. And I think the quality and overall attention to detail on all of the side quests as well as the main quest is what makes this game a true gem. Is that you're going through stories and you're going through different experiences with other characters or doing missions to find people, and there's lots of lore written in there, whether it be through collectible pages, whether it be through a story that is told to you by these characters, or whether it just be by the scenery and the adventure that you are going on. The game certainly leads you to have a fantastic and immersive experience whatever you are doing. Now, whether you choose to be a strictly good wizard and you stick to the spells that you learn in the school, or whether you dabble in the dark arts, there's something for everybody in this game in terms of gameplay and gameplay choices. One thing I really wish they had expanded on a little bit more though is the consequences of dark magic, particularly in relation to how towards the beginning of the game we do have the magical officer who pops up throughout the storyline in Hogsmeade, and that would have been cool to incorporate those sort of people, or maybe something like auras. If you are familiar with the lore around Hogwarts Legacy, auras would be wizards that go seeking out those using dark magic. Something along those lines would be cool to see further incorporated, maybe further down the line. But it is very cool that you've got the option to use all of these different spells, and I think at the end of the day this is a story-based and story-driven game, so having less consequences for the player does lead to far less friction and more chance to explore different builds, different playstyles, and different usage of spells. Now, the main story, in my opinion, was fantastic throughout. I felt like I was immersed in the world. I wanted to learn about the characters that came up, and I did want to learn about what happened before in this time, what we were actually seeing in these memories, and ultimately to fight Ranrock at the end of the game was a fantastic thing. Now, one thing I really liked, like I mentioned towards the start of this video, was the combat and the fluidity of the combat, how ancient magic is your character's sort of secret source, and that is incorporated very fluidly through all of the combat aspects of the game, alongside the choice of obviously which spells you can use, whether you want to incorporate dark magic into that or whether it is just the ones you learn through the schooling system of the game. There is a ton of spells and different combinations that you can learn through the dueling feats system, which every time you enter a battle with a particular type of enemy, there'll be a dueling feat that pops up on your screen. This will teach you a combination of ancient magic or regular spells that you can use versus that enemy that will have devastating effects and either lead to insta-kills or some high damage versus those really tough enemies. And this is a fantastic feature that leads to a system where the more experienced you are, the more fights you've done in the game, the quicker and more sufficiently you will be able to deal with enemies going forward, which I really liked. It kind of gives a sort of knowledge-based progression system outside of the game's metric systems. Now, I do like the use of of levels and talents in the game as well. I think the talent system is really cool, as it does allow you to explore different buffs to spells and capabilities within the game. There isn't a reset button, which I don't entirely dislike. Actually, I quite like that the talents are limited and you can't get everything on one character, as this does push you to want to play multiple characters or do second or third runs of the game using different features. For example, using potions and plants a lot more in one run, focusing more on spells in another, and then maybe another run with dark arts. Of course, you can incorporate aspects of each of these within the same run, but doing different ones and specializing in certain things in each different run would lead to a very different experience and could lead to a very powerful combination which you might not yet have experienced. Now, the lack of a reset talents button isn't for everybody. Some players may prefer to be able to reset their talents, particularly if they are not inclined to start second or third characters or additional characters in any form down the line. However, I do think that Hogwarts Legacy is a game that would cater to that pretty well. Whether it be you want to choose a different house, a different playstyle, or anything in between that, this will be a really cool option. Now, for the purposes of doing this as well, they have separate save files so that when you start an additional character, you can't accidentally overwrite the save data of previous characters, which is a fantastic feature. Some modern games do have this in, but it isn't an industry standard across the board, so this is a really nice feature to have in the game as well if you do want to create subsequent characters. Personally, for me, playing through the game, one of the most fun features I found was the stealth system and the Petrificus Totalis spell. Going round and stealthing through a few of these areas has been a particular fun aspect. I've managed to clear many a bandit camp with simply just going into the Disillusionment and then going around with Petrificus Totalis. Certainly made use of the sprinting while in Disillusionment upgrade, as well as the area of effect Petrificus Totalis. Both of these towards the end game have led me to some pretty successful completely undercover missions where I haven't really had to use the powerful magic I've gained, although there is situations definitely where it's much more fun to go in guns blazing as well. So the diversity of options of gameplay and game style is something which is really great about this game. You can go in, you can go absolutely guns blazing like I said and take out everybody, or the stealth route, and either way you can be equally as successful, which is a really nice feature. I also like the longevity of the game. Like I said, I've done around 45 to 50 hours in game, and whilst I have completed the main story quest as well as many of the sub-side quest lines, things like some of the NPCs you encounter on the main story, their quest lines, as well as just random side quests that you will find around the map at different hamlets and different locations, I have completed a lot of these. I do still have a few more to go, and once I've completed all the official side quests, I've got the collections to finish off, so quite a lot of the field guide pages section I still need to get, some more collection chests to unlock the different cosmetics such as the wand handles, and there is additional things I could do like collect some money to buy up all of the different broom aesthetics in the game. And all of these different things and different gameplay features mean that you can get on the game and do different things every single day should you wish to, or you can do 5 minutes on one thing, 10 minutes on another, 15 on another, etc. And you can always be working towards a goal overall, as well as doing lots of different things. Now, I've seen some people explain this as lots to do. They get into level 20, 25 without even progressing much into the main story, and then they're coming back to it and being like, oh, okay, I've got to now get some new spells and stuff. So it means, again, people can play the game pretty much exactly how they would like to once you have opened up that open world aspect, which does require a few hours of gameplay towards the beginning, but once you have it open, it is then there for the rest of the game, so you can come and go as you choose in terms of the main story, side quests, and collectibles. Now, one fantastic feature I enjoyed a lot throughout the game is, of course, the cosmetic system or the transmog system, whereby you can equip a piece of gear and change the appearance to be whatever you would like that to be. This has been fantastic and has meant that I can keep upgrading my appearance whilst also upgrading my gear and not worrying too much if the two don't align, because if I don't like the look of something, I can just change it to something else which I prefer. This has been fantastic and has meant that I've always had some good stats in the game and haven't found many of the fights overly challenging because of this, which is really cool. I also really like the traits system and the upgrade system to gear. Whilst you don't necessarily need to do this in order to progress, once you do get hands-on with the upgrades and the traits and start to optimize this, you can see a massive power boost in your character, particularly towards the end game, which is really, really cool, and that's something that I've enjoyed getting hands-on with. Like I said, after finishing the main story and many of the side stories, is working on my character, and that's been really good fun as well. Now, there's probably a lot of other really cool features that I haven't mentioned here, but I'm going to try and keep this as concise as possible, so I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I would like to see them add in the future of the game. Well, of course, I would love to see a DLC for this game. I would love to see more areas added, but in terms of features that could be added to the core gameplay, I would really like to see some sort of consequence system for the dark arts. Like I said towards the beginning, this is of course a story game primarily, and it makes sense why there isn't necessarily a consequence system, but in some way to make you feel a little bit less overpowered and just using the dark arts. That could be good, although that being said, once you do get towards the end game and you're getting up to those higher levels with the traits on and stuff like that, you are going to be pretty powerful with your regular spells too, so it's kind of a mixed match, but certainly earlier on in the game, some consequences for using the dark arts might be interesting to see. Now, of course, multiplayer is something else that a lot of players have talked about wanting in the game, or some sort of co-op system where you could at least play with a friend, even if it's not the entire campaign or main story. Maybe things like adding in the mini games, you're able to play against each other, dueling, or maybe even some sort of Quidditch addition to the game, as I do feel like that was lacking from the story. It would have been great to have Quidditch in there. I understand how they've kind of made that work in terms of the storyline, that the headmaster did not want Quidditch to be practiced as often, so therefore it's not really in. However, I do feel like they've got much more room to work with this in the future and potentially bring this out as a DLC or a follow-up game if there is sequels to the title as well, and this could incorporate that, as I do think a lot of players would have quite a lot of fun with the Quidditch, as the flying in the game is really, really cool, and it does feel awesome flying around through the balloons and such like that, doing the races. So if we actually had Quidditch matches going on, I think a lot of players would enjoy that. I would also like to see a little bit more room in the vivariums. I know you do get given 4 of these, so there is 4 different areas you can put different amounts of beasts in, and whilst you've technically got enough room for each of the beast species in the game to be in one, it would be really cool if there was an area to see more beasts kept in these vivariums, so we can feel like we're rescuing more of them. And it would have also been really good to see the beasts actually grow up when you breed offspring. I'm not entirely sure why they don't, whether it's something to do with the lore, so if anybody does know that, please let me know down below in the comments. But I think that would have been really cool to see them grow up, because right now it feels a little bit weird that they're always staying as young offspring rather than, you know, growing and caring for these animals. I don't know why, but a lot of comments have said a similar thing to this, so I thought it was worth mentioning. The other thing that I would like to see incorporated in the game, either in DLC or in future titles, or indeed added to the base game, would be some random encounter events. So of course you do have sort of NPCs walking around the map, and they will fight if they come into contact with the different factions. So for example, spiders versus dark wizards, and things like that you do see occurring around the map. But what you don't see much of is random encounter events, things that randomly happen, and I do think that that would add a lot of gameplay mechanic to the end game system when you are going around trying to 100% the game, completing your collections, whatever it is that you want to do. If there was, for example, a dark wizard attack on a certain location and you had to go there, and maybe it would be something like the magical authorities would turn up to fight it and you could help to defeat them in order to earn a certain amount of currency or a certain amount of moonstone, or potentially some secret achievements, some cool collectibles, or whether it was maybe a reputation thing with the Ministry of Magic or something similar to that, where then you could buy different decorations for your vivarium or for your room of requirements. Anything along those lines, just some sort of random encounter that gave a reward, I think would be cool, and it would be a good addition to the end game area because it would keep the gameplay mixing up as you are going around. But overall, I do like the way that it feels right now. There is quite a lot of activity and liveliness to the world, and that is something which is a really big benefit. Now, to round out the video, I did obviously want to touch on one of the most impressive aspects of the game, which is of course the aesthetic, the architecture, and the world design of Hogwarts Legacy. The Hogwarts castle itself is fantastic. Hogsmeade as well is really similar to how we've seen it, for example, in the films, and getting that level of detail, particularly when you're going around the castle corridors and you can see all of the talking paintings, the armor sets that move, as well as obviously the ghosts like Nearly Headless Nick and Peeves. Now, all of this is really, really cool. It's all super well designed. For those players that do have a lot of interest in the lore of the Harry Potter universe, I'm told that it's quite similar to how the castle should be, which is amazing. And of course, you've got the entire other rest of the world they've built, including things like the trials during the main story, which have got their own unique gold and blue architecture. Then you've got the swamplands, the snowy mountains, the open beaches. All of this, including things like the vivariums in the Room of Requirement, as well as, of course, the Room of Requirement itself. And all of this level design, along with the music and the audio design of the game, is absolutely phenomenal. And it's certainly worth mentioning as I kind of sum up this video. So yes, I have really enjoyed the game. Overall, I would say it is definitely worth playing if you get the chance to do so. And all of these aspects come together to complete the game and make it feel like a very magical environment for the player. So these are just sort of my honest initial thoughts after completing the game. What did I like about it? What would I like to see more of or expanded on in the future? Do let me know your thoughts and feelings down below in the comments. What did you like? What did you not like as much? And what would you like to see going forward? Other than that, if you have enjoyed the video, please do drop me a like down below, as it massively helps to support my content here on YouTube. And if you do want to see more Hogwarts Legacy videos, whether that's tips, tricks, guides, all of that stuff will be coming very shortly to the channel, so do make sure you drop a subscribe down below. And other than that, I will catch you again very, very shortly on a brand new upload. So take care and peace.